I saw I follow very few people, Drake White, and I'm going to tell you how many people I follow. I don't know how many people you follow, but I'm not a scroller. I don't like scrolling. I don't get into it. I don't dig it. I follow 180 people on Instagram, and you're one of them because you're very inspirational. You're influential. I've known you for a long time. But the other day, you posted something that I was kind of a part of. I was in Fenway Park when you came out and sang with Zach Brown. But I always tell the story of the year before that. You did the after party for Zach at the House of Blues, and I was standing up in the balcony, I guess that would be, above the stage, and it was, I don't know how many people were there, but you could not have fit another human being in the room at House of Blues. And when you sang one of your songs from arguably, in my opinion, one of the best all-around country albums of all time, Spark, Making Me Look Good Again, Zach pulled up his sleeve and he had goosebumps up and down his arm, and he looked at me and Chad Payne and said, that there is a smash hit, huge country hit. I don't remember exact words. I'm just paraphrasing. But I remember that and then a year later, you're on stage at Fenway. What does that do to your psyche to go back and see memories like that? And I'm kind of correlating it with that wall behind you, because it brought up another memory that I know that you've played with Willie Nelson before. You've played with Charlie Starr and Blackberry. How does that help you in your life, remembering those moments that you have been on stage with freaking Willie Nelson? He's an icon. Zach Brown's legitimately one of my favorite artists. His artistic and his musicship is up there with his guitar playing is awesome. The band's great, right? Talk to me a little bit about what that did for your psyche back then when you're on stage with some of those guys.
Yeah. Man, it's uncanny, what it does. You just dream of, you start playing around fires and start doing your thing, and you're just a kid out there with a dream. And so to play with some of the people that you admire and your heroes like Willie and Zach and all that stuff, and then to go through what I've been through, I call it the scenic route to stardom. I mean, I have not had this massive explosion into like a Laney or a Riley. He's worked really hard, but you're watching these people have these moments, and it really gives you the journey of a troubadour, and the journey of a song of a music man or woman is one that I just don't quit. And these little things, these memories that pop up, like the Fenway Park and having 30,000 people bump that dopamine into your system, that's the kind of stuff that got me through the stroke. It's the kind of spiritual stuff that makes me know that God is watching me, and it helps me heal, to say, you know what? It may have not have all worked out like you would have expected or thought, because I'm so competitive and so ambitious. But keep going, because God has a plan, and man, you are living out that plan, and something great is coming from all of this. And look at all the great things that have came from it. And that's what it does for me, Chad. It helps. And I'm happy. I'm happy where I'm at, but I'll take that back. I'm never going to be happy where I'm at. I'm always going to be pushing, because that's just my thing. But I think gratitude is where we can get into being grateful that I'm here, being grateful that I had that opportunity to be in Fenway, or to shake Willie Nelson's hand and have biscuits and gravy on his bus one day. And those things are what keep me going and give me hope and faith that tomorrow is going to be better than today.
You have a very strong resilience about you. We are going to get into what happened to you again. We're going to get into what's getting ready to happen with you through. I want to get into the meaning of Hurts the Healing, because those words together are amazingly powerful. But with that in mind, Drake White, I've seen you on stage recently with Riley, who's Alabama, with you. I've seen you on stage with Kid Rock lately. You have so many friends in this industry. What do they say to you when they talk to you about your resiliency, or what you just mentioned of your path as a troubadour, that did not happen. It's your own story. You stayed in your lane. But what do those people, Kid Rock's got a restaurant now, the Detroit Cowboy, he's got his bar on Broadway. He's very successful. He took a different path. I don't think Kid Rock's ever had a #1 hit in America. Maybe one. Maybe one with Sheryl Crow. I don't even know if that's the truth. That might have went to #2. I think he's had a couple #1s in Europe. But what do people like Bobby Ritchie, who's Kid Rock, and Riley Green and Lainey Wilson, your friends in Nashville that you came there with, what do they say to you about your resiliency and to keep going? Can you share some of the private moments at all?
Yeah, I mean, most of the conversations with me and Riley are, man, hey man, there's a cold front moving in. What do you think about being in Illinois? Right? You got an opening right here. We could be in Illinois, or we could be in, in Kentucky right here. Like, so, and Bob lives up beside me here, and my farm's close to him. So I'm asking him if he's seen this deer on camera, So there's that camaraderie with being hunters, and just taking us out. We don't really talk a lot about music. We do talk some about music. Me and Riley are, always we've wrote a couple of songs, and me and Bob, I've always enjoyed the hip hop side of things in the country, and it's just the freestyle thing. And but it's just really life. Bob has came into this, really, really good spot in his life where he is wise, and he is figuring out how to help people. And he's always had that spirit about him. And no matter how you align, I think he's a very human. I think Riley is a very human person. And so we're just brothers, and although we may differ in a lot of different ways, I mean, they just look at me and say, man, I don't know how I don't know how it feels to go through what you've been through, but we're here. And that means everything. Same with you. You've always said, we'll go 6-8 months without talking to each other. And that's just part of life. We're all working, and, I got a baby on the way. I've got Alex. Alex is pregnant. I've got a 2.5-year-old downstairs, and life happens. But you guys are always there. So they just look at me and say, you know what, brother, I'm here. If you need me to bring the tanks over, come on. And that means everything in my walk. And, same with you. You've always been there. So it's good.
Do you?
Brandon Adams is the same way.
I was texting with him this morning. He's one of my favorite human beings. One of the greatest human beings ever born. You're friends with the great Jamie Johnson.
That sounded like Trump. One of the greatest humans. He's the best human.
He is. He's great. He's great, huh? I can't do a very good Trump. I wish I had Shane Gillis here to do it for me. But you're friends with another Alabama native, Jamie Johnson, who in my opinion is one of the GOATs. Has he ever given you advice? Like he is, you shake your head because I know you're shaking your head of like, damn, that dude is one of the GOATs, because what he did on this last album was mind blowing. I don't even know how many years it was in between albums, but Jamie Johnson to me is one of the GOATs. Has he ever given you any advice? Because Jamie is a very sensible, intellectual, intelligent. I mean, the guy's got his pilot's license. He flies himself all over the world through the clouds. He's got his instrument license. The guy's on a different level of intellect when I talk to him.
He's like a country music Gandalf.
Yes, that's exactly right. That's a great description of Jamie Johnson. I don't know if many people know that side of Jamie, and I don't know him anywhere near as much as you, as close as you are, but I do know Wally really well, and I talk to Wally a lot. Shout out to Wally. He wrote Jennings and Jones with Jamie Johnson. Great song on that.
Shout out to Wally. We all love Wally.
Everybody loves Wally. But talk to me a little bit about your relationship with him. I know we're going into this hurts the healing, but Jamie has went a different way in Nashville. And to me, he's one of the most respected dudes out there. He played with Charlie Daniels and George Jones and Merle Haggard and Willie, and he's always on the Opry member. Like, the guy is a legend, in my opinion. But he's
the legend. He's
got like 4 or 5 albums his whole career. But he's just an amazing. Talk to me about who he is to you and if he's ever given you any advice.
Janie's a brother, man. And that is one guy that, like, when he says he's going to be there, he's going to be there. Like, is busy. And I've witnessed it time after time. Benefit for the Brain in the middle of the rhyming. He's there. You know, we released this last album. He comes to the album release party at Jolton Hardware right up the road. He shows up, eats some hot wings, talks to my mom, kind of freaks her out a little bit, which was awesome. And you know, he's deeper than the bathtub, I say. You know, it's one of those, we're always going to be talking about Jamie Johnson because he has that personality that men and women alike, they just talk about him because he is a little hard to figure out. You can't really understand, you know, and he's been through hard things, and man, he's a Marine. He's a soldier. And that dude he is one of the most loyal dudes, if not the most loyal dude in this town and it's just unbelievable. That guy, he was one of the first people after the stroke, you know, that said, I'm here. You know, I'll open up my bank account. You can have my bus. You can have my plane, whatever you need. I'm sorry you're going through this. Keep going. So
Unreal.
That's what I think. Jamie Johnson is my brother. And, you know, you can only get, I wouldn't say we don't talk every day, but we talk a good bit. And, you know, I'm a deep thinker. If I'm a deep thinker, he's deep as the Pacific Ocean. You know, if I'm as deep as a creek, he's deep as he's deep. And I love that about him.
Me too. I want you to educate the audience, Drake White. You wrote a song called Hurts the Healing. You do have a documentary coming out that we're going to get into that I'm excited to see. I was at the Benefit for the Brain. Brandon Adams was there. Amazing night. Like the money raised, listening to your surgeon and Dr. Miracle talk. And we could go into that if you want, but that was an incredible night of humanity and life and spirit and influence and inspiration and just everything that goes into it. Everybody there for the same reason. What were you thinking when you came up with that? Hurts? That's kind of alliteration, but that lyric, those words put together like that, is it because I don't like to use the word spiritual, but when you're a believer and you know that you have the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ on your side and his dad and everything that goes into being a believer, is that kind of what it means, that you know that you're going to go through some adversity in life, like the Bible says, like the scripture says, that, hey man, I'm going to hurt, but I'm healing at the same time? I'm not trying to say that I know what you meant. I'm asking you, am I on the right track? But what do those words mean the way you put them together?
When you're paralyzed and you can't feel anything, pain is welcome.
Oh, okay.
You just want to feel something, because pain means what? It means you're alive.
Yep.
So, sorry, that is, so all I wanted to do was write. I'm right in the middle of, you know, I'm 34 years old, 35 when this happened. Like, I'm in my prime. I feel good. I'm about to go back out with Zach. I'm about to go do all this stuff. And boom, stroke happens. I'm paralyzed for 3 months. You know, I get back on my feet. I get on a walker and I call my publisher and I say, hey, Tom over at Sony, will you get me some rights? Drake, nobody's writing. The pandemic is set in, because that's what people don't understand. It was the stroke. And then right after the stroke, right when I got back on my feet in February, from August to February is where I learned to walk again. And right February of 2020, we all know what happened. Nobody's writing. Would you be willing to write on Zoom? And I looked at Tom in the face. I said, shit, man, I'll write in Morse code. I don't give a damn. Smoke signals. So he set me up a Zoom write with a girl named Allison Veltz Cruz that I'd never met, and Aaron Chaffin. And Aaron Chaffin said that his mom and dad had a car wreck. And the car wreck put them in intensive care. And what most folks didn't realize is that they were on the brink of a divorce. and they were in a physical altercation that made that car wreck happen. But the Lord put them together in intensive care for months, and it welded their marriage back together. And after that, they proceeded to have 5 kids, and Aaron said, I was the fifth. So I've been watching what you've been going through, Miss Drake, and I've been seeing, how boisterous you were. You were like the Eddie Vedder of country music, jumping around, going crazy. And then I watched this docile person healing. So all I got to say is maybe the hurt is the healing. Maybe the pain and the suffering is something, and we started that line. Maybe tears don't fall for nothing. Maybe the river's rushing to baptize me clean. And I don't know why it happened, but I'm starting to figure out each day, God gives me a little wink of like, you wouldn't be able to speak with this authority. You wouldn't be able to have this witness. You wouldn't be able to have this song. People are not committing suicide because of these songs. Like, they come up to you and they say that wouldn't have happened. Maybe we wouldn't have went down the IVF journey as far in the medical journey of figuring my medical stuff out. Maybe Hawk wouldn't even be here. Maybe Della wouldn't even be coming. There's so many things that we have to understand. Life is a blessing, dude, and it doesn't matter how much pain you go through. That hurt means you're alive, and you got to be grateful for that hurt, and it means you're healing. The process of healing is painful, and man, we're human, so hurt is a part of it. So embrace it. That's what I had to do, and that's what that song is, embracing the pain of, man, I get to live this life. I get to breathe another day.
Do you feel that with what you just said about going through it and that pain and hurt is part of the healing, do you feel like the best Drake White has been viewed or heard personally, professionally, musically, artistically? In your opinion, where you sit right now, do you feel that the world has heard and seen and felt the best Drake White that's ever going to happen on this earth, knowing what you've gone through?
Of course not. I mean, I'm always competing with myself, to steal a Matthew McConaughey line, like, my hero is me in 5 years. I'm always trying to get better. I'm always trying to, I know for a fact that I've still got songs in me, because I haven't fulfilled that vision of Madison Square Garden being packed out, and I've had that dream. I've literally had that vision of Red Rocks being sold out, singing Coast is Clear, why it's, with Leith and everybody up there, with it being sold out. That's a real thing. And I think what listeners, and what injury does and what strife does, and it creates these testimonies, but it creates this belief, because our brains are so powerful. Like, when you think about something, like when you thought about having to file off in a show and a hunting thing, like, I don't know the percentage, but a large percentage of it was done just because you thought it. And I believe that. Like, I believe it's not for the world. It's not, Galatians 5:16 says, walk in the spirit, you will not give in to the lust of the flesh. My prayer always is, what God do you want me to do to glorify your kingdom? What do you need me to do? Because this world, like, I want to stay aligned, with exactly what needs to happen, for his will to be done. And I want to be moving in that direction. But I've seen those visions of Madison Square Garden, which is a very earthly, that would satisfy my lust. I mean, not lust, that would satisfy my flesh, right? But it also would, it's like God, he's so graceful and he's so sovereign that he's like, he knows, like, I went through that for a reason, to help people. It's not about me. It's not about you. It's not about it is about the music, but the music just is a conduit to break down the wall that somebody may have up to let me get through to them. I mean, music's helped me break down walls with you. You know, you've listened to me, I've listened to you around fires. We've healed each other. We've talked back and forth. And I mean, I'm digging into some personal stuff, but it's like, I know we've had those conversations, and I know music. If I wouldn't have been a musician, I couldn't have ever talked to you like that, because you'd been like, what do you know? You know?
Yeah.
So it's a big thing, and it's a big spiritual thing.
Going back to when you wrote the song "Hurts the Healing" in the car wreck and the husband and wife, are you a believer that everything in life happens for a reason? And if you are, why did the stroke happen to you?
I'm a big believer in that. I do believe in free will, and I believe our choices drastically influence every day. I mean, one choice, two choices, like you got to understand free will is still there. And that's why Jesus came and died on the cross to give us that free will. Now to go in and understand maybe the whole intertwination of Abraham all the way to Isaiah and try to figure out, you know, all of that. Like I can't tell you the answer of free will, but I do believe that we have free will, and I do believe everything that it happens to us happens for a reason. The stroke definitely happened for a reason. If nothing else, but to the one person in, you know, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that came up and said, hey man, I had a Glock 9mm in my mouth, you know, 3 nights ago. And this song Giants came on right when I was you know, and it pulled up. If nothing but that happened, then all of the stroke and everything would have been worth it, because the stroke, that's the way God works. He's sovereign. He knows, because that person that pulled the gun out of his mouth could go on to be the president. He could go on to be a preacher, you know, like he could be the next Martin Luther King. And I've got so much peace in that I don't know the answers to everything, but I do know that angels are real, that everything happens for a reason, and that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, you know?
When you think about mental health, emotional health, and physical health, which includes strength, which you look like you got in really good shape. Shout out to First Form. Drake was talking about First Form before we turned on the mics.
Heck yeah. Shout out to Corey and them.
When you think about all those different parts of the brain and what you've gone through, talk to me about the thoughts that you currently have on the trajectory that you were on at the time the stroke happened. Because, and I'll say it again, I am going to do a podcast. I do these solo podcasts on my favorite albums of all time. And I think The Lonesome Song is one of the #1 albums of all time in the history of country music. And I know this is all subjective. I'm just saying opinionated. But I also think that Drake White's Spark is one of the most genius albums ever written, produced, the way that it flows, the songs that are on it, from Equator to Elvis. I was listening to it last night with a friend in my backyard. And when I Need Real came on, they're like, what in the freak? What is this? And I educated them. The lyrics are insane.
I appreciate that.
The trajectory that you were on, Drake White, emotionally and mentally now, what goes through your mind of what if it didn't happen? And does that cause pain? And if so, how do you currently deal with it? Is it all through conversations with your beautiful wife, Alex? Is it your new babies? Is it the man upstairs and really, really, you know, becoming one of his and walking in that kingdom and testifying and giving your life to Jesus? How do you deal with thinking back of the trajectory you were on, and then all of a sudden, bam, it happens? Does it still go through your mind a lot? And how do you deal with those thoughts?
Well, I'll tell people out there, I am a positive person. I do try to stay in optimism most of the time. but I have bad moments. You know, I have bad thoughts. You know, I'll have a thought, for example, like, oh, well, they're not taking me serious, or I didn't get on this TV show, this late night thing, or I didn't get on this festival. That's been a big one lately. Like all these big festivals that are rocking and that everybody's doing them. I'm not necessarily on some of the bigger ones. And so, you know, you get into this world of like, nobody's taking me serious. Nobody cares about what I'm doing. My window of opportunity is gone. I'm 41 years old. You know, I'm to this, I'm to that. You know, I should, you know, I should this, I should that, you know, and the devil gets on top of you. And I like to say, I stole this from Deion Sanders, like, I'll have a bad moment, but I rarely have a bad day. Because when you go through something that is a near-death experience and you see angels and you're almost ushered into the other realm, you're just thankful that you got today. And I have to constantly come back to that. Because yes, my manager pisses me off sometimes. Yes, my people not, you know, somebody not doing what they say they're going to do, or missing a call, or me being 2 hours late to this. Like, I'm sure that goes through your head. It's the same thing. And those things can start to spiral. And like, if not everything's in order, I think I'm not achieving, you know, what I want to achieve. And I think I'm pushing too hard. Am I pushing enough? Am I going to push them away? Are they going to drop me? They're going to let me go? You know, is Alex happy? Is she healthy? Am I doing what I need to do with my kid? Like, all of that stuff comes in my head daily. But the blessing of the stroke is there's a saying that says, if you've got your health, you have a million problems. There's a million problems out there if you got your health. If you don't have your health, you got one problem. So, sweet Jesus, I'm thankful for my health today, is what I always come back to. If I'm getting into that grind of the Drake White, ambitious, trying to push, because that's why I'm where I'm at. But in order to go further, well, I believe anything that you've done is worth doing the equal and opposite to see what happens as a businessman. So why don't I pull back and not push as hard? Why don't I try something in the hunting space and try this story? The hurt's the healing turned into the hunt's the healing. Hunting became part of me, so much so gave me a purpose, made me learn, and I will get into that, of learning how to climb the ladder stand and then seeing the deer on the camera. Chad, that is why we're talking right now. And that was just an idea in my head. Well, I'm going to go into this space because I'm passionate about this space. So I'm doing things different. I'm innovating inside of things that give me joy, that give me peace and flow. Let's just flow. Willie Nelson's the best at that. That dude is the biggest flow ever, you know, and call it surfing energy, but, and just being positive in the fact that, like, I want to be packing out Madison Square Garden. I want to be, you know, going and seeing 50,000 people in front of me. Of course, I have those dreams and I'll never stop pursuing them. But when the road gets to the point where that stress it becomes stressful, that I'm like, oh man, I wish I had this. I wish I had that. I go back to Galatians 5:16. Is that my flesh or is that the spirit? Because if I'm not walking in the spirit, then the public is not getting my best self. It's not getting the kingdom mindset, which is, this world is not my home, brother. Like I will pass, just like Mr. Phil, our brother. I've loved watching his entrance into heaven, and I thought this was funny. I had a picture of like a bunch of angry ducks and said, "This is 9 million angry ducks greeting Phil as he comes into heaven."
Yeah, through the pearly gates.
Yeah, I love that. But we watched a earthly saint, if you will, a duck hunting saint, enter into the next life, and like I believe that. I believe that I'm not of this earth. I mean, I don't think you're of this earth. I don't think we are meant to be here. You know, we are meant to be here. Sorry. I don't believe we're meant to stay here. And so it's okay when I think about these little things of my manager didn't get that deal with, you know, Moultrie today or whatever, you know, I'm making that up, but like so-and-so didn't call me back. What? Dude, you got a kid, you survived. Now don't get me wrong. I still have it on my list. I still have it on my list that so-and-so didn't call me back. And then I got to ping him again. But it broke my ego, dude. I realized rock bottom had a basement and it broke. And I still have an ego, by the way. I still have an ego when I get on stage. I'm still the baddest dude in the world, and that confidence is never going to go away. It did go away for a minute, but I know how to get it back. And it just, I don't know where I was going with that other than yes, it is to come out of those dark places and to come out of those. I have bad thoughts every day. But it's understanding, man, and gratitude's how you win. Gratitude's always how you win. It's not fake either. Sometimes, hey, I'll say this. Sometimes you got to be fake. Sometimes you just got to say, hey, I'm going to have a good day today, no matter if I feel it or not. And I walk into, you know, the hardware store and I walk in, I say, give me a beef stick and a gravy co. How you doing? Good to see you. Let's rock and roll. And I don't feel like doing that, but I do it because that's an energy. That's a frequency. See?
When you talk about your ability to have a bad moment during the day but not have a bad day, talk to me on how social media, I was just reading this report yesterday about CMA Fest. You were one of the first artists that I ever went to CMA Fest with to see, you and Leith, and I remember you at the Silver Dollar Saloon, and it was you and Sam Hunt, and Sam opened for you, and you blew the doors off of the Silver Dollar stage that night, and then you played out in front of Bridgestone Arena and blew the doors off of that stage. But I read this report that like fans, like we're having to get back in the way back of the line if they didn't have a certain number of TikTok followers to be an influencer to bring a bunch of hype to these concerts and these artists and you know, all this stuff. And I'm like, what? That's not what being a fan's about. And I look at it the same when you're an artist, that I've heard that if you don't have a certain amount of TikTok followers now, that some of these record labels on Music Row, 16th and 17th Avenue won't even talk to you. I don't know if this is true. I'm just saying what I've heard. But how does a musician at 41 years old utilize social media without letting it become, I try to stay off of it because I don't necessarily want to know what I'm not doing because everybody's doing something on social media. I want to stay in my lane and I know what I'm doing every day, and I got focus and I got charisma and I got all of this passion and energy going into the projects that I'm involved in, whether it's sponsors or a hunt camp or working with Caesar's Palace or going to Texas just now and working the land, whatever it is. I utilize social media because it's part of the game. It's part of the impressions and the engagement that these sponsors and partners are looking for. But is it really worth being on? Is it really worth it when you're talking about the hurt is the healing and you're talking about your brain working in certain capacities? Is it worth a human being going on there and seeing all of this constant success? And it makes you go, man, am I doing enough? Man, am I really doing enough? Like, how do you utilize it, Drake White? And how do you manage that? Because, man, when I look at something, I'm like, what? They just got to deal with them? What the freak? Like, how the hell did that happen? And it drives me nuts. So I just decide not to scroll. I don't want to know. So I try to keep my brain healthy by just staying in my lane and knowing what I do. I don't get jealous. I don't get envious. I support people that are successful. I want people to go out and do what they were put on this earth to do. I feel that I'm on this earth to do what God and Jesus want me to do. And that's what I remind myself all the freaking time. How do you deal with it?
That's it. What you just said. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I know my intentions are pure. You know what my favorite thing to do is? My favorite thing to do is put my guitar on, build a set list, and go create an hour and a half worth of moments that somebody can put in their quiver and they can go laugh, cry, fight life's battles with those memories of knowing that they came to a Drake White show, in, Atlanta, Georgia, and it helped them to the next day. So that is a God anointed thing. That means that I'm walking in the spirit. I can feel that. I was born to be on stage. That gives me life. I was born to write music, writing a song. That gives me life. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. Then the content days for me are like, I've got a team of Zach, who you've met, and a girl named Maddie. Shout out to Maddie. And we get together, twice a month. And I've got this whole note thing that I put ideas of, like, this is funny, this is inspirational. Because my three things are motivation, music, and mayhem. Music, motivation, mayhem. So I do my post, mayhem being funny, comedy. I love comedy. I love what Theo Vaughn's doing. I love what Rogan's doing. I love that comedy is back in the world. Don't you? Is that not awesome?
Love it.
And so music, motivation, mayhem. I do that with them. Come in, we knock out the ideas. They splatter that across the boards. I don't look at any of the comments. I go back and I engage with the good comments. I don't look at really the bad comments. I don't stick on it, but I do. Alex a lot of times will be like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm making my post for tonight." And she's like, "Oh." So I treat it like a job, and that may be why I don't have 5 million followers, but it's what keeps it all in check for me. Is like, it's a tool. It is only a tool. Me and Zach just had this conversation before I got on here, which made me late. Like, it's just a tool. And like, it doesn't give me life like writing a song or, when the other night I posted, one of my guys caught Riley lighting a cigar for me. Well, Bob's in the background, Kid Rock's in the background singing Sweet Home Alabama. What is a better night than Kid Rock singing Sweet Home Alabama to 2 Alabama guys in a bar that I slept in the parking lot after playing with John Party, and Riley's one of the biggest artists, in our genre right now, lighting a cigar. I'm not going to stop that moment and go, "Hey man, can you do that again? Can you video this?" But my 25-year-old buddy had the presence of mind to video it. Well, that video got more views and likes because it was authentic. What's cooler? I think the caption was like, "What's cooler than Kid Rock singing Sweet Home Alabama and Riley Green lighting your cigar?"
Yeah.
And I think the reason I went into that is because social media to me is a tool. And I try not to, it does consume me sometimes of like, why don't I have this? Or why did so-and-so get that? Of course I've had those thoughts. Everybody does. But it's understanding it's not that old, and it takes a long time for studies to come back on what it does to us mentally. And I know what going on a hunt does to you. I know what a sunset does. I know what making love to my wife does to me mentally. I know what holding my son and, teaching him, we caught us first fish the other day. I know what that does to me mentally. It's way better than what 3 million followers would do to me mentally, So I just keep it in check, man. Try to.
Do you get approached to tell your life story in a documentary, or is this one of your creative prowess that you're sitting around and you want to I remember back in the day you were on the show The Doctors. You were going on and really letting people know what happened, why it happened, who the surgeon. Shout out to Dr. Miracle again. I remember sitting in the scoreboard eating hot chicken with you and some of the old hickory wings that Mr. Barrett Hobbs has out there in Music Valley. And learning about what was going on in your brain and the operations and the procedures that it was going to take to get your brain healthy again. And then all of a sudden that night in Roanoke, that went down and mayhem happened, literally. Singing Coast is Clear. You fall down, your guitar catches you, your guitar tech is in your ear wondering what's going on. He can tell something's not right. Something happened during that day that they saw some evidence that something wasn't right. There was all this stuff going around, but now people are going to be able to understand what happened, your story. Tell me a little bit about the documentary, because this is a hot time in America for documentaries. They're everywhere. Where are we going to be able to see it? But why? Why would I watch Hurts the Healing and the story of Drake White in his stroke?
When I was recovering, picture me in a wheelchair, hickory floors in our living room, and I'm looking out. There's a hollow. There's actually 4 different ridges that come into a creek right behind my house, and I'm looking at it. My brother-in-law goes, "Hey, we should put a game camera up back there." And I just looked at him. I said, "I'm in a effing wheelchair, dude." I was pissed. I was pissed at God. I was pissed at everybody. Like, I can't hunt. Well, the reason this documentary is coming out is because of what I'm about to tell you. And I was in a shell of a man. I was 150 pounds. I weigh 190 now. And he went out there reluctantly for me, or I was like, "Don't worry about it." He goes out there and puts the game camera up, connects it to my phone. And 2 weeks later, I get a picture of a 175-inch deer in Nashville, Tennessee. I come to my wife and I show her the picture of the deer shaking. And she goes, I said, "I got to learn how to climb a ladder." She goes, "You got to learn how to walk." And I showed her the picture of that deer. She goes, "Well, you're not going to Kansas. You're not going to Iowa." I said, "Look at the picture." She said, "Oh my God, is that behind our house?" One picture started this neuroplasticity growth back into my being. It awoken this David and Goliath warrior. It awoken this provider. It awoken this thing that I thought I'd lost. It's like I wanted to pursue. I wanted to figure out how to get up that ladder. I wanted to figure out how to shoot my bow. Ended up being a crossbow because I couldn't pull a bow back because I had no shoulder. But this one picture at 9:00 in the morning from the night before changed the trajectory of my life. And I go back to my neurologist 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, after pursuing that deer. Never killed the deer, but 175-inch Pope and Young level deer. I'm pursuing him. I'm going and climbing the ladder. And I skipped a part. I went to my physical therapist. I said, "I got to learn how to climb a ladder." He's like, "Drake, you got an AFO in your leg. You can't even move your leg. Like, we got to learn how to walk." He's from Mississippi. Showed him the picture of the deer. "All right, get on that VersaClimber and I worked with a weight vest and I grinded and we did needling. I did hyperbaric oxygen. I did the blue dye stuff. I did stem cells with Ed Clay, all of this stuff. And I climbed that ladder one rung at a time, and we documented it. We documented how scared I was for the frost to be under my boot. We documented how it went through my mind that maybe I might fall and have to go through all this again. And the Alex, everybody's saying I shouldn't do it. It was too dangerous. But once I got in that tree stand, I was a hunter. I was a provider. I was a man. I didn't need anybody to help me wipe my own ass. I didn't need anybody. I was doing it. And when I went back to my neurologist, he goes, "What have you been doing? You look like a new person." And I said, "The hunt's the healing." I said, "I've been hunting." "Hunting what?" And he looked at these scans, and neuroplasticity had formed around that lesion because I was born a hunter. You were born a hunter. And I just tacked back into that with the technology of a trail camera. It triggered all of it, Chad. And we documented the whole thing and talked about the black abyss of, I missed deer. I wounded deer. I drug deer up there. I had trouble cleaning my own deer. I had trouble skinning it. All the stuffs that make you a man, I had trouble doing. But God, what he was doing was he was making my grip stronger. He was making my legs stronger, because now I'm having to chase a 2.5-year-old around, and I've got a pregnant wife, and I'm having to catch them from going in the water, down at the pond. That's what it actually did. The hunt was the healing. I never killed the deer. I'm still hunting. I've killed a bunch of deer since then, but it's that pursuit of being uncomfortable. Getting old is the relentless pursuit of being comfortable. I could have curled up and collected my check for disability and been fine, never got, and nobody would have faulted me for that. But man, God came inside of me and said, the hunt's the healing. And this idea was born. We documented it. And then my management comes at me. Why would you want to go to 4 million, I'm making this up, but maybe 4 million hunters in this world and close off a whole world of people? Why would you want to tell the story through hunting? That's such a small thing. And I just looked at him and without hesitation said, because I'm a hunter. I'm a hunter. I don't need to keep it. I don't need to Bruce Springsteen it. I don't need to do anything to explain to anybody that I was born to provide. If I was in a Native American tribe, I would be the hunter. It's in me. I think about it all the time. I'm a hunter. So this picture triggered it. And I thought the world needed to see that we are all hunters in some regard, and that our heritage is being ripped from us piece by piece. And now it's in a better spot because of what's going on in culture. But hunting is a part of me. It's a part of you. It's way older than we can think. And we kicked into that primal thing. And in turn, it made me a better husband, a better Christian, a better farmer, a better cook, a better dad, a better human. And so I thought that was worth documenting, man. And similar to, not to be long-winded on this because I know I'm going, but the Colonel and the Fox, that was something, that documentary about turkey hunting, you had to be a fan of that. And we're in this world of, Cam Haines is one of my favorite people ever, and I'm going to be on his podcast soon. But some people carry rocks up mountains. Some people use an upright bow. Some people use a 30-06. I want people to know that hunting heals. Purpose is powerful. And that's what I documented this for, because it ultimately healed me. And ultimately, I'm way better because that deer, and I never killed it. What if the deer wasn't even real? What if God put an imaginary angel deer in front of me and didn't even, because I never saw it but twice, and nobody ever killed it. I would have heard about it. That's coming out in August, and it'll be on YouTube. And we're going to put it out on the Outdoor channel as well with our buddy Mitch Petrie that you introduced me to. We've got a lot of interest in it, because that story, it doesn't matter if you're a tree hugger from California or a coon ass from, Louisiana, or, out in Texas hunting over a feeder, or you're in the South hunting a turkey with a shotgun. You understand this. It's a story that keeps us going. It's the story that kept the American wild turkey going. It's a story is the reason I'm obsessed with Roosevelt, So I just thought it was worth telling the story that, man, I climbed the ladder and documenting that journey. It's called Ladder to the Sky, and it's a hunt's the healing. Hopefully it becomes this episodic thing where I can take people out there with me, and we're going to have a big launch, and me and Riley and all of us, Riley's in it, a bunch of different people are in it, and just kind of witnessing what took place at Honey Break, where you introduced me to Drew, and we documented, of course, a hunt there, but the actual hunt and the kills, 10% of it. It's really just me grinding on a day in and day out with those thoughts of like, am I capable? Am I going to fall? Am I going to rise? Am I going to be successful? Am I being ethical by being out here with no left arm? I'm going to wound this animal. I can't even skin it. The devil is just chirping. You can't eat it. Your wife don't even like it. It tastes too gamey. Like how many times, how many things came into my head to keep me from doing it. And since then, man, I've killed half a dozen deer, and it's just made me realize that that's where I find God, is in those trees, is in those blinds, and in those woods, in the pursuit of something. It's not, has nothing to do with the simulation that we're all living, that you should get this and you should got that. That deer's just trying to stay alive. That duck's just trying to stay alive. And when we're out there, I'm talking to God. That is God. That is God. The wings, the sounds, the smells. That's why you're addicted to it. That's why because we're truly primal hunters. We are. But I just wanted to show people how holy it was that we tapped into that, and so thankful for it. Because I wouldn't be where I'm at if it wasn't for that deer that I never killed.
One person that you have to tell that exact same thing to someday, and I don't know if you have or not, is the great Uncle Ted. Because when Ted Nugent hears that, what you just said about hunting and the power of hunting, of what he's been saying since, if you go back and look at videos of Ted Nugent when he was in his 20s, he was talking about Fred Bear and the mystical flight of the arrow. But if he heard that, he would be wowed. And what I mean by that is I've had a blessed life of being able to see what hunting does. Whether it's 5 o'clock on a Friday and a man or a woman had a tough week at work in the office and they get to hunt camp and get to crack a beer and get around the fire and get their dog ready or their bow ready, and they're looking at pictures on a camera like you explained, and they're all excited for Saturday morning to come. It might be their son or daughter's first turkey hunt or squirrel hunt, whatever. And then another level. You go up another level. And I've walked the halls of St. Jude, and I've walked the halls of Ronald McDonald House in Memphis, Tennessee, and all over the country, and seen what hunting has done for kids that are 5 years. They can't say that they're cancer-free, but they can't say they're in remission. They can say they're cancer-free. I take that back. They can say they're disease-free, but they can never say they're in remission at that age. And I've seen what taken that kid and his sister and his mom and dad and seeing them in a duck blind in Oklahoma, and him trying to get his motor skills back and singing songs in the blind, and tears coming out of his sister and his mom and his dad's eyes because they're seeing little Grant shoulder a 20 gauge with my help and look down the barrel at mallard ducks, and then seeing a dog bring a mallard duck back. And then you take it to another level. And I've had veterans that have taken shrapnel to the left side of their brain or got their leg blown off, and the therapy that one day in the duck blind provided to them. I don't know if any of that is on the level of what you just explained, of how hunting literally helped you form. What's the word again that was forming around your incision?
Neuroplasticity.
Your neuroplasticity was literally forming again because of God's white-tailed deer on a camera that most people look at those camera and go, okay, I'm going to put him on the hit list and he's going to be named Double Time. He's going to be named Drop Bell, whatever. But that camera and that picture served a purpose that is at the ultimate. It is on the highest level of what hunting is doing for people. You could take the culinary part of it, the food part of it, being a provider, a source of protein, feeding your family, feeding your friends, donating it to a homeless shelter. I got a great friend in Kansas that donates a lot of it to a rehabilitation center for falcons and eagles that get wrapped up in telephone lines and hit by cars and big rigs going down I-35 in Wichita. They're eating the ducks and geese to rehabilitate these birds of prey so they could fly in God's sky again. Hunting is amazing, but what you just described, holy smokes, that is the ultimate of why people need to watch Ladder to the Sky, Hurts the Healing, the Drake White story, and why you're putting it out there, because that's vulnerability. Being scared of frost on your boot and hitting that metal rung on that ladder and slipping and breaking your jaw again, or the fear of falling again. Nobody wants to fall again. They're not afraid to, but nobody wants to. That's why we work out. That's why our bodies are able to heal. That's why our brains are able to heal. And it's stories like this that people have to hear, in my opinion, because it's so evident of what it provides for people, whether it was suicide prevention or just influence of like, man, I'm a better human being. I've become a better father, a better Christian, a better husband. There's so many great stories that come out of what you just said, and hunting is at the base of that. And it might have been something else. You might have got sent a picture of Noah Gragson driving a NASCAR someday at Talladega, and you're like, man, that's all I needed to see. But there's something about hunting, and like Ted Nugent explains it, that nothing else in the world can do. I don't care how good of a golfer you are, Drake White. I don't care how many holes that you drive in the golf cart with Riley Green and Jamie Johnson and John Daly. None of that is going to do what being at hunting camp with those individuals will do for the soul. It just doesn't, it doesn't compete. It never will add up and equal what hunting does for the brain and the human soul. So what you just said hit me because I've watched it happen on so many levels, but now I see it at that level. And that's the highest level I've ever heard of.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to capture it. I'm a big fan of, I watch hunting videos all the time, and I'm a big fan of your stuff. I'm a big fan of Michael Waddell. I just went and got on Michael's podcast, and I've been watching Michael since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, you know? And I love the Revenant. I love the Bear Attack. I don't really like the Revenant, the movie. I don't understand the movie. Maybe I'm not that smart, but I do love the cinematography of the Bear Attack. So I told Zach, I have an incredible cameraman. And I told Zach, I said, what would it take to film a hunting film like that Bear Attack? He said, started naming off gear because he's solution oriented. He didn't go, well, that's $3 million. No, he goes, it's a lens. It's a treatment. You get it. It's a lens. I said, can we rent the lens? He goes, yeah. So we shot this in a way that the same kind of treatment that we had, but so it's different. It's a different hunting film, right? Because of the story. But I want to tell you this story about how competitive I am because you've been around me. Like, me and Riley have become really good buddies, but he's a little bit young. He's like 4 years younger than me, and watching him, basically his label was my old label. So they dropped me, pick him up. He's from 3 miles from where I'm from. So I was pretty pissed and not pissed at him, just pissed that that's the way my life was going. And after the stroke, Riley called me, texted me and said, hey, I heard you're going through some bad stuff. I didn't really know him. If there's anything me or my team could do, let me know. Well, you think that would be comforting maybe to me, right? Well, I threw my phone through the hospital sheetrock. I was so mad because his team was my team. Your life was supposed to be my life. That's what in that moment, I had the brain injury, was still kicking. So fast forward, he comes to me after the pandemic was in full swing, said, hey, me and Austin Riley and Tyler Jordan are going to Honey Break. Would you want to go with me and Greg Camp to Honey Break? I've come, I'd love to have you as my guest. Then again, pissed. I don't need your help going to Honey Break. I'm friends with Drew Keith. I'm friends through Chad. Like, I can go to Honey Break on my own. Thank you. Alex goes, you stupid boy. You need to go. These guys want you to be in the camp. That's going to help. This was before everything. This is like 2020. I just got to where I could, but I'd been to Prairie Wings and I'd struggled, Chad, putting on my waders. And David White, who, shout out to my dad, David White is the greatest human ever. He had to help me put my waders on. Maybe you were there, maybe you weren't. But that left toe stayed curled up, and finally it relaxed when the first flock came, when the first volley happened. But the reason I didn't want to go to Honey Break with Riley was actually because I didn't want to show the vulnerability of a boy not being able to get his waders on by himself. So Alex tells me to go. We document all this. This is in the documentary. This is why this documentary is so important. I end up driving 13 hours with Riley. We cut up. He's funny. I'm fun. We're going back and forth and giving each other hell. The next day we're going to go duck hunting. All right. I wake up at 3:30 in the morning to get down to the boot room to start trying to put my waders on because I wanted to do it by myself and I didn't want anybody to see me struggling. 3:30 turns to 4. 4 turns to 4:30. People are starting to trickle down. I'm sweating in the boot room, pulling this up, and this is all in the documentary. I'm moving around and I'm like, dadgummit, Tyler and Riley's about to be up. They're about to see this. 4:45 turns to 5. Everybody's coming down there. Everybody's getting ready. And you know that anticipation. Everybody's loading the boats. Everybody's getting the side-by-sides to go out into these, to honey break, to do all this stuff. I can't get my waders on. I'm sweating. I'm sitting in the boot room. Riley walks in, and I look up. It's dark. What are you doing, man? Oh, man, I'm struggling a little bit with these boots, these waders. Oh, come here. Walks over in 20 seconds, picks me up. He's huge, He picks me up, straightens my leg out, runs his hand down like, we get in the waders. And it broke me, Chad. It completely broke me. And God just smiled at me and goes, you stupid boy. Just like Alex. And it forged this friendship. And we reenacted all of it and documented it in the film because it was so important. That was so huge for me and God told me, if you'll help him do what he wants to do, I'll help you do what you want to do. And I remember cussing the sky like, that's really hard. That's really hard. Like, but it broke me and it forged this great friendship. And we had a good hunt and it ended up killing like a 145-inch 8-point that year. And I didn't even realize you could deer hunt at Honey Break. And it bonded this even closer, tighter relationship with Drew Keith. And now I've been back every year for, 5, 6, 7 years. And there's a documentary that's filmed at Honey, a lot of it's filmed at Honey Break. But these things that happened that I didn't even want to go to, that the devil was like, you don't want to go do that. You don't want to reveal that you can't put your waders on. You're a man. You don't want your competition to see your weakness. When my weakness is exactly what made me strong.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Do you think that, I know it's getting late into the conversation, we'll end it like this, Drake White. I know what I'm going to get out of watching it because I know a lot about you and I've been around you for over a decade now. But what are people going to get out of it? If we're all sitting in a movie theater and 400 people walk out of the theater after they watch Ladder to the Sky, are all of us going to get something different out of this? Or is it going to be a pretty common message? Or do you want people to find the relevancy in their own brain of what they're going to get out of it, of how it's going to help them? What are you trying to showcase here in this documentary? How important medical science is? How important the inner strength is? How important being a believer is? Friendship? What are we trying to get out of watching Ladder to the Sky? Or I should say, what are you trying to let people get out of it? Or is to each their own?
It's each their own. My point is, hunting came under so much ridicule, and I think it's the evil one that is finding ways to ridicule it because it's such an anointed thing. It's such a sacred thing to me to be able to go into the woods and and do it. But I just want, like I said, it doesn't matter if you're a bricklayer from Gadsden, Alabama, or an avocado farmer from Southern California. I want you to be able to watch this video and go, you know what? That I get it. I got something out of that. And the point is, you gotta find something to look forward to. You gotta find something to work towards always. If you quit moving, you die. And man, I had so many opportunities in this world, this medical society. This is a little controversial, but I think FDR is trying to fix it, and I think all of that stuff, but they are so set on making you comfortable to where you can just kind of chill out and die and not be a force. I want to be a force, man. I've worked hard building my left shoulder up, my left leg back up. I'm hunting. I'm gonna try to hike Mount Pisgah with Cam. I'm gonna do these hunts. I'm going back elk hunting this year. I'm jumping in my waders, no problem now. Like the things that it doesn't matter if you could totally oppose hunting, if you totally oppose killing an animal. I hope that you can look at this and see that the primal purpose is powerful. That to click into the primal thing is what we've all got to do to get out of this simulation of like this many likes and this lipstick is better. And if I don't do this, if I don't have this house, none of that matters. What matters is that you're a provider, that you're at peace, that you're peace, patience, kindness, all the fruits of the Spirit. That's what matters. And the fact that I might get to talk to Ted Nugent,
Well, I'm going to introduce you to Ted Nugent this week because I want you to get on his show. I want you to tell his universe, and I want him to go on all of his platforms, the big ones. He's on all the big ones.
Yeah.
And I want him to tell these people that might not necessarily hunt that of how powerful it is. Just listen to Drake's testimony. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that hunt and fish and they don't talk about it openly because they're worried about the backlash. But there are a lot of people, including Don Trump Jr., Ted Nugent, Cam Haines. There's a lot of great personnel. I can name a lot more, but I don't want to let it all out of the bag because they don't. But I want to make sure that people understand what your message is of it is powerful. And I want people to get that message out of why we hunt. And it's not to see an animal die. The amount of compassion that I was driving down a road in my hometown 2 weeks ago, and there's a creek that runs through the north and southbound lanes, and it's loaded with mallard ducks all the time. And the main reason for that is that a lot of people feed them. They come out of their subdivisions and they're feeding these ducks. So they gather around and now they're in harm's way because a certain time of year, they can't elevate fast. They can't fly. They lose their flight feathers and they're getting hit by cars. And I got tears in my eyes. I saw 2 mallards within a mile stretch, and I kill mallards for a living and I eat them. But when I saw them die that way during the breeding season, and now those babies in those nests are missing their daddies and their mamas, I cried because I have a lot of compassion for what hunting means. And I have a lot of respect for the resource. And that's what Ted Nugent's going to tell you is that people don't understand that part of it. I can back anybody in by saying, man, try this beef I just cooked. And when they go, man, that's some of the best I've, I go, well, that's speckled belly goose. And they're like, what? No way. You could back somebody in that way. But back them in the way that you're doing it, this is different level. And I can't wait for Uncle Ted to hear it. I'm going to get you guys together on a group text this week because people need to watch this documentary. They need to understand this documentary. And I want it to be seen by the masses. And I'm going to say it again. Just do yourself a favor and go get Drake's music. I don't know what Drake's going to promote music-wise in the next little bit. We're going to have him back on. I know he's got new music coming out, a new tour starting. But man, I'm telling you, I listened to it last night as God is my witness. He was listening it with me. And when that song, I Need Real, came on, I could recite the entire thing. I could recite so many of Drake's lyrics. They're genius. Do yourself a favor, listen to it.
I'll tell you what we're going to do. We've got a whole list. We're going to be out with Riley and Ella for a while. We're about to go out with Chase Rice, who's another hunter. I've done 3 covers, and I've not revealed those covers anywhere yet. But I love that Lose Control song, Teddy Swims. I love the Run. So I covered Lose Control. My way, you know, it's awesome. I love it. And then I started listening to Birds of a Feather randomly by Billie Eilish one day. So I just covered it. So I covered Birds of a Feather with Billie Eilish, not with, but, and I covered Ring of Fire, Johnny Cash. And I did it my way with my harmonica and my guitar. And, you know, it's been a long time working with this hand to get it back to where I can actually play guitar. And this is the first thing kind of out since that. And we're going to have those out, you know, June probably. I don't know when this is going to be out, but we're going to be probably middle of June breaking those out. And then I'm just going to start firing out of my, you know, because you've heard a lot of the songs in my Dropbox. Like I've got 10 years of songs that I've wrote. You know, when Stapleton got discovered or whatever, he had 20 years of songs that he'd been writing. I've been writing with the best writers for 10 years. And so we're just going to start going in. That's the beauty of right now being in. I'm so glad that we're independent. I'm so glad that we're able to go out and play to 1,500 people in Columbus, Ohio, or 800 people in, you know, coming up in California. We're about to be out in California. You need to come check us out there maybe. But there's just a lot of opportunities out there for artists. And thank you for mentioning my music, because none of this would be possible if it wasn't for the music. And that's still my number one thing. And, you know, I'm passionate about hunting, but I'm probably on a scale from 1 to 10, if the passion for hunting is a 9.5, music is definitely the 10, you know? So it's,
well, they go together a lot, because I've heard you rip around a campfire, which one of these songs that you did just give a little hint about a couple weeks ago, maybe a month or two ago on your social, was Gypsy. And when I heard Gypsy for the first time and your runs on that was like, that's as cool a vocal as there is.
We're going to release it. We're going to release Gypsy. We're going to release Grinning. We're going to release That Don't Cost a Dime. We're releasing all that stuff that we've always, you know, and we got some new music as well, like new songs, but this is new music, you know, Granted, all of that stuff is, If I Could Have a Drink, you know, all of that stuff needs to be released. 50 Years Too Late was the reason I got discovered, and it never was released until last year, you know?
Yeah, one of the greatest songs ever written, you and Lee Lawton. God, that song is good.
So, we're in it, dude, and we're
looking at your tour right now. I don't see California on it. Is that a hidden date?
September.
Oh, wait.
We might not have announced them yet.
Maybe I didn't go deep enough. Okay, I thought you said it was Georgia, North Carolina, Alabama.
Hey, I got this story about that. I know we're probably about to conclude, but I wanted to tell you this story that kind of relates, that kind of connects everything here at the end. Me and Alex have been going to this church called Grace Baptist, and I never thought I'd go back to a Baptist church. Not anything against Hoax Bluff Baptist. I love that church, but we have found this church, and we were in Matthew the other day, like the second or third chapter of Matthew, and John the Baptist comes into the fold, and dude, John the Baptist was like imagine somebody looking like Phil Robertson. That was John the Baptist. He was hairy and bearded, and he had a camel skin jacket on, and he had just a belt, and he ate locusts and honey. He didn't eat steak, and he came and told all these Sadducees and Pharisees that they were full of crap. And he was the one, like he was the hippie, the dude. And I'm sitting here reading this, and it said that he went off into the wilderness. And that spoke to me in that word, and I wanted to tell you this. So John the Baptist chose the wilderness, and that hit me. Like, why did he choose the wilderness? Why was he in the wilderness? Well, he was a hippie. He was a hairy just guy out there rolling around. But like that, then I started reading deeper into it, because where did Jesus go when he needed to get away? Where did he go when he needed to pray? He went off by himself into the wilderness. Where do we go when we need a break? Where do we go when we need filled up? Where do we go when we need a primal pump? We need, because the redbirds and the deer and the ducks do not care about your likes and don't care about your biceps or don't care about your, Lamborghini. It just is this peaceful place. So I go play this show in Alabama a couple of weeks ago, and I'm in this guy's house, and he's showing me this monocraft plane, and it's this blueprint of this plane, like an architectural blueprint. You understand?
Yep.
And I'm like, and it's huge, dude. It's like 75 inches wide by 70. It's giant. And I said, what is that? He said, man, that is my great great uncle. He looked at the Wright brothers and looked at that plane. And what I'm doing is connecting back to why John the Baptist was in the wilderness, why we seek the wilderness, because that is God's creation. Everything, all the answers are out there, all the medicines out there, all the foods out there. Everything is in the wilderness because it is undisturbed. So the guys trying to figure out from the Wright brothers, they would connect their wings on each side of the thorax of the plane or the body of the plane, and it would break the wings because there was no strength in it. So he's praying. He's a religious man, so he's praying. This is the story being told by this, by my buddy from Alabama. Looking at this picture, he's like, he was the first one to build a singular monocraft plane. Both wings were joined all the way across. There was rigidity, and it was just a stronger aircraft. And he said when he started praying, he looks down and there's a dead bird on the ground. And he's in the middle of the woods, picks up the bird. He starts looking at how God put the bird's wings onto his body. And so he carries it into a shop, and he thumbtacks it up to the wall, and he studies it for a year. And he builds the first monocraft plane that we still use today. That design. And it's because he paid attention. God put a bird in front of it. Said, look at my design. So what I would promote from this is like, maybe listen to what God is asking. Maybe look at God's design before you go ask anybody else what you might need to be doing. Like maybe you might be missing your best thing if you just simplify everything down and say, how can I make this deer blind better? Or how can I make my marriage better? Or look into nature. Go into the wilderness like John the Baptist and Jesus did. Let's go into the wilderness. Let's go into the hunting because the hunting healed me. Let's go into the yeah. You see what I'm saying?
Oh,
Is that not
100%.
cool?
Yeah. When you pay attention to what's going on out there, it's amazing how it can help you in so many different formats. We could do a whole other 3-hour discussion on what hunting has done for me and what I've seen it do for so many people. But when do we see this? Is this going to be September?
I think it will launch on YouTube possibly, in some form. I mean, our partners are Real Tree. Well, we got a bunch of different partners. But Bushnell's been good to us. Bagara's been good to us. Brandon Adams banded. I could not have done this without Brandon Adams. He's just been so gracious and I couldn't have done it. Like he's the one that gave me the right to do it because he said, I want this story out. I told it to him at Prairie Wings, sitting there, and it's hard to get Brandon to sit down for 25, 30 minutes, much less an hour. He listened to the story and is like, I'm in.
Yep.
Tell me where to be. And so I did this because of the relationships, it's all relationships. I don't owe anybody on it. It's just, I want to get the story out there, and I don't, it'd be nice to make money on it. Great. But that's like, I don't even care about the money. I want millions of people to see this, and maybe it might help them tap back into their primal instinct. But it's going to be released first. Let's call it end of August, 1st of September on YouTube, and then make it sway to the Outdoor Channel through. So while we're all through hunting season, it'll be airing there, and then hopefully, man, it'll be in some, Netflix or Hulu. We're working our way towards that, but I don't know how to do that, but they do. So
I can't wait to watch it. And it's called Ladder to the Sky.
yeah, it's a Hunts the Healing production, but it's called Ladder to the Sky, which is another song that I wrote a while ago.
I can't wait to watch it. Drake White, you guys check it out. YouTube, end of August, early September, and then on the Outdoor Channel. Thank you, Mitch Petrie. Thank you, Brandon Adams. Without you, none of this would be possible. That's exactly what Drake White just said. I'm a fan, brother. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you, Drake. I can't wait to do it again. I can't wait to see you in hunt camp this fall, and I can't wait to watch Ladder to the Sky.
All right, man. Good talking to you. Thanks for the opportunity. God bless, guys.